think I'm live. So yesterday, my family got some devastating news. Just devastating news. It's been real hard to do anything, function. In fact, I had a panic attack at work. I don't have panic attacks. I've had precisely 2 panic attacks in my life. The first one was after my dad died. I was leaving my aunt's house. I was driving me and my brothers. This is 21 years ago. Driving my brothers to the next stop. You gotta do all these things after someone dies. Funeral things. And I went to get in the car and just life felt surreal. Everything felt surreal. It didn't feel like I felt outside of my body. Hard to explain. Almost passed out. Sat in the car and said, I can't drive this anyway. I need a minute. And yeah, for those who have panic attacks, you know, feel like you're gonna die. Nothing feels real. It's a very surreal feeling. It's almost like a dreamlike state. And today was my second one that I've ever had in my life. Now I know this live stream is usually about the class war, and I guess technically this is still about the class war. This is definitely about the struggle. But I gave you my word. I will go live 5 days a week, weekdays. So I'm gonna go and do a live real quick. Because I left work early. I had a panic attack. Felt like I was gonna die. After getting devastating news. But after the seagulls are stopping traffic, that's cool. But what I want to talk about real quick is like why some of the stuff I do is what I do. After my dad died, it was a tough time. Remember, I was 21, 22, I forget. Just turned 22, or I was turning 20? I don't remember. It's been that long. Remember, I'm in my 40s. I'm old. I remember when Kurt Cobain and Tupac were alive. So, long time. I was young. My brothers were younger. My brothers were just teens, 15, 17. And after my dad died, you kind of get this, like, when you're young anyways, you feel immortal. You know, you don't think, reality can't pinch you. Reality can't bite you like it does. But when you lose somebody that close, and we lost my mom right after. When you lose somebody that close to you, when you're that young, reality does a number on you. So after my dad died, it was just a hard, complex world to live in. I always explain it as it feels like your world has completely stopped, but the world keeps spinning around you. And that's how it feels many days. If you lose a loved one, if you ever lose someone close to you, not just a loved one, but someone you know, sometimes in those moments of grief, it will feel like that your world is completely stopped and the world keeps going around you. People just go about their business. Like, and you, in my head, I would be like, do you not understand? My world just collapsed. You'd be at work, you'd be running errands, because you still have to go through life. But when somebody that close to you passes, it's hard to function. It's one of those things. And I could not figure out how I would continue. It was tough. Couldn't figure out what the next step. Things seemed impossible. My mom was kind of the backbone at that point, but I wasn't living with her, and she was struggling too. In fact, she and my little brother came to live with me and my other brother at one point. But one of the things that gave me some peace of mind, and that helped me restart my world, was helping people. As crazy as that sounds, sometimes when you're that wrapped up in grief, when something so tragic happens, you gotta get out of your head. Like right now, learning that devastating news yesterday, inside my head is a mess. It's like glitched. It is a glitched mess inside of my brain. After getting devastating news, sometimes, like I say, some people don't have the mental bandwidth to process things. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. But then there are people who have endured and endured and endured. And their bandwidth, they can handle a little bit more. But irregardless of where you stand, whether you can only endure a little bit or a lot, there's a breaking point for all of us. I reached that today. I crossed that finish line. And I've been there once before. And after my dad died, I met with my boss at the time. We were checking in. She was amazing in helping me through the process of grief and very understanding. And I said, you know what I want to do is I got to help people. I said, I want to incorporate that somehow into radio, into everything that I'm doing. I was doing crazy stuff, not crazy stuff, but crazy I think to like normal people. People that weren't scarred like I was. One dude had broken down, his truck had broken down in the middle of this island, and I just pulled over and went and helped him. Didn't think twice, just jumped out of my car. I was young. Just, hey, you need help? What do we gotta do? I forget, we pushed his car to the side of the road, we called somebody, made sure I stayed with him until he left. So talking to my boss, and I was working in radio on a morning show at the time, I said, I need to help people. There was another time, I got to this conclusion after my dad died that I needed to help people because I'd done more things than help the dude on the side of the road. There was another homeless dude where I took out to lunch, and ordered him lunch, and we talked. And there was, I don't want to go into all this stuff, but essentially I was like, any money I made, I was not giving it away, but I was using it in places that I felt needed it more than I did. And my family was not doing good at that time, but helping other people, and like it says in the good book, don't let your left hand know what your right is doing. Let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. So it wasn't something that I was talking to everybody about with. And I'm only sharing this because I want to get to the point of where I'm at now. What I do now. Why I do it now. But outside of work, I just kept doing these little things. And it was a way to get out of my head. It felt like helping other people kind of took me away from my grief and helped me understand that everybody's got an issue, small to big. Everybody needs some help at some point. And that's really when I learned, like, the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps, the whole 24-hour grind is nonsense. Nobody can do that. Nobody's a robot. Why do you think we're creating robots? Because they want people to do that. That's the propaganda they try to sell you. I went to my boss in radio and said, I want to help people. I want to figure out a way to do it. And we did little things here and there. But really, for me, it was like the mindset, the way to get out of my own grief. The way to help myself by helping other people. And I strongly encourage you to try it if you're going through something like I am right now. Again, I am not okay. I am not okay by any means. But I'm here, and it would mean the world to me if you join this little family we got here. You hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I go live 5 days a week, even when this is maybe the most scared I've been in my life, outside of my dad dying. this probably tops it. Being a father myself. This is the most devastated I've been in a long, long time. And I've been living a life of stress. You know, if you're in the struggle, if you're part of this family, you know. Set up for failure. Poverty is a trap. It's near impossible without somebody having a family to go to or some kind of help. And I haven't had that in a long time. You know what? Both my parents were dead since I was young. But I realized helping people really helped me cope, helped me, just feel good. Like I was just not so self-consumed, self-absorbed, which we tend to be, especially when we're going through it. When we're going through it, oh man, it is hard to help somebody else. When you are stressed, it feels like an impossible feat to try and help somebody else. It feels like when you, like yesterday, this devastating news I got, I couldn't get out of my own head. I couldn't speak the words. And I felt useless to myself, never mind trying to help somebody else. But I'm telling you, and I'm also telling myself right now, I'm reminding myself, what's up, Anderson? I'm reminding myself that trying to help other people can help you through the process. It's really tough, though, in that immediate moment of grief, of tragedy, to think of anything but what's right in front of you. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that's all you can do. Just think about what's right in front of you. You can't see the forest through the trees, so you gotta tackle each tree as they come. Or scoot around them. Or if you got an axe, chop them down. So, a long time ago, after my dad died, I realized this lesson, this eternal morality that Jesus even teaches us. That's in the good book. That's in the ancient prophets. Getting outside of yourself and helping people is really what can help see you through. Of course, once you've got to a place where you can stand on your own. It's just like those ill-built airliners say, you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help the person sitting next to you. And I believe that to be true. So fast forward to today. And I run this channel. Not only do I love comedy, so I try to write comedy and do, a weekend update. And I love paranormal stuff and history, so I try to do those kind of videos when I can. But I started going live 5 days a week with the class war of the struggle because more and more people seem misinformed. There's so much to be thrown at you that sometimes they fight against their best interest. And I see so many people struggling and not willing to admit that things aren't okay because it might, and this is just some of the experiences I've had, I'm not saying it's everyone, but some people, because they don't want other people to have whatever, will just forego it themselves. They'll pretend like, no, I'm good. There are some people that I've talked to that have parents to live with. I haven't had parents in decades. So they don't think it could happen to them. As much as this has been a misery for me, it's also been a blessing because I learned these lessons early. I learned that nothing's guaranteed, that it can happen to you. That compassion is the only way forward. I don't know when we lost that, but it's gone. And that's what I try to do. As much as the people have an issue with me going after Mr. Beast, but I do it I do it well-meaning. I want to push him to be better. If you can't hear that and you hear jealousy because of his success, then maybe it's on me. Maybe I'm communicating it wrong, but I'm trying to be very clear. I think his content could be such higher of a caliber, and the proof is he's done it before. He's done things where I've been like, wow, damn, that was clever, or that was creative. And there are creators that I do that with, that I say like, holy smokes, no wonder they're successful. And then there's some times where I question it. And I go, why is this being pushed on trending? Whose vested interest is in that? But I do this every day because I don't like seeing people struggle. Because the people that I've known in life, and you'll meet everyone who will say, I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I did it all on my own. I'm self-made. Watch their actions, okay? When they say that to you, because I had a boss that I worked for in Boston radio, Greg Hill, who always bragged about being self-made. But he lived with his parents forever. His parents were very, very wealthy. His grandparents owned racehorses. They were lawyers and doctors. I don't know. Like well off. Lived in the same town his whole life. In fact, still lives in the same town. The guy's like 60 years old. Never moved out of that town. So when he would say that, and people just bought it because they couldn't question it, or most of them wouldn't question it, and they liked that story. People like that story. I'm self-made, and now look at how successful I am. I own bars and restaurants, and I'm on the air. But his actions were always so questionable to me. Because when they hired me for that job, paying me almost $100,000 a year, and I came from nothing. I mean, I came from living in a car. And I worked really hard for everything I had. But I was the only one fighting for the most vulnerable people in this city. He was shitting on them every moment he could. Fighting against them. All in self-interest, too. Fighting against workers getting paid more. Fighting against the homeless. Fighting against drug addicts. Stigmatizing them. I mean, there was really some questionable stuff that I just could not. He would point out, like, oh, Rob's not laughing, Rob's upset. I just thought it was hideous that a man with a platform that big would crap on the most vulnerable people in our city. I don't believe, well, it wasn't his city. He lived outside in the comfortable ass suburbs. Big house, no issues. And I just thought, anyone that's self-made, that really has come from nothing, usually has some kind of compassion or understanding of those issues. I mean, this guy was saying on the air that people that are on welfare food stamps are living high on the hog and they get too much. They shouldn't be allowed to XYZ. I said, have you ever got food stamps? You ain't living it up. You ain't like, oh, this is the life. In fact, it's a trap, because once you start to make more money, they take the food stamps away. And it just felt like very uninformed for someone who claims to be self-made and claims to have done it all on his own, which the irony in that is, like, he drives on the roads we all share, uses the sewer systems, the police and fire department like we do. He uses the community assets to build up his businesses. It's totally not self-made. I mean, those are just the obvious things, but the biggest thing is people who had such power, such wealth, but not enough. That drove me nuts. And not only was it they had power and wealth and it wasn't enough for them, but they had to villainize the most vulnerable in our communities. I'm a former drug addict, okay? Every day I make a choice. Stay clean for my kids. Every day I make a choice. When you're an addict, you're making that choice every single day. It's a tough one. And this guy treated these addicts like it was the greatest lifestyle, and they were, living it up and just love trashing our communities. When in reality, if you go talk to any drug addict, which I did for a long time, it was part of like radio bits I would do that we stopped doing because of how questionable it was. But if you talk to any of those drug addicts and ask them, is this where you imagine you ended up when you were a kid? Like, was this your goal? Not many will tell you yes. And a lot feel trapped and lose hope. But either way, that's part of our communities. And you fight to demonize them when you live in a hill with all the money and don't have to worry about rent, heat, etc. I think something's wrong with you, and I don't think you can claim to be coming from the bottom to the top. I think people that do that have different perspectives. You can just tell. I can tell by talking to somebody. for a day, you know, once you hear how they start to talk. They either got an ill intent, very selfish, or if they're truly, you know, from the bottom to the top, they have that bandwidth for compassion, for empathy. They have a different understanding of life. They're not as naive as some of these people. So once I no longer worked there, because there was no option there to speak out and, you know, have the compassion that I do. I was ostracized, made fun of. The worst part about his radio show is people would call in to support me, and because he controlled the phones, he wouldn't pick up any of my supporters. He would only pick up the people that were threatening me, calling me wuss, or whatever comes with having a heart for people, you know, for not wanting to demonize them to make myself feel better, which is not really what it was. I mean, this guy treated his employees horrible. The stories I heard, the things I seen. And to think it was from the person who you'd think would be the happiest. I used to say, like, man, I thought you people were supposed to be jolly. But it wasn't just because he was well fed. It was also because, like, he didn't have working people issues. He didn't worry about rent. He didn't worry about these things, where the next meal was coming from. So you figure those people would just be at least a little thankful, a little grateful for their position in society. And it weighs on me a lot, not only because am I continually experiencing these things, and my youngest brother's been homeless for God knows how long and could not get the health care he needed because of the way insurance is set up in this country, but also because of all the things happening right now. There's so many things coming at you on the internet and media that people buy into things that are not good for them, and they're completely sold hook, line, and sinker. And I just feel like I can't stay silent. If you stay silent, that's what they want. There's nothing more in the world that when I was on that radio show, that guy wanted me to stay quiet and not point out the hypocrisy, the maliciousness that he went at people who were just vulnerable. You know, they didn't even have a microphone to combat it, and he exploited them for his own wealth. Well, that's why I do the class war, the live stream, the struggle. Because my interest is in benefiting the community. When our communities are stronger, and people can live in homes and raise their kids there, guess what? They invest more. They love those areas. And the way things are going right now is scary. I worry for my children. I worry for my neighbors' children. I worry about what it looks like for the young people that I work with, for the young people around me, especially when they lose hope. When people lose hope and then they go, oh, what can you do? You know, or it just is what it is. And that's the most disgusting attitude. I always ask those people, would you have said that when slavery was happening? Would you have said that in the Jim Crow South? It is what it is. What are we going to do about it? You can't have that attitude. Even though I received some of the most devastating news yesterday, and I'm shattered right now, I still wanted to come on and just share some of my story and tell you why I'm doing this. Why, until my last breath, I will fight for you to have a higher education if you want one without burying yourself in debt. For you, for your family, for your loved ones, to be able to access the health care you need without having to remortgage your house or sell your home or whatever kind of debt you need to accrue to get a cure or a medicine or a treatment. I think that's absurd. And people have just gone along with this, that they hold our cures and our treatments to diseases as ransom. They hold it hostage, and they demand a payment ransom. Even with the price of everything going up and rents skyrocketing and people are not making any more money enough to cover it. And that the American dream used to be owning a home, a car, college education, and now we got these CEOs in our face. They're not hiding it anymore. They are telling you, if you can't afford supper, if you can't afford your dinner, just buy our Kellogg's wheat flake cereal that we've jacked up the price 17% over the past year. Just spend it on that. Which, ironically, why wouldn't they say, like, just get some fresh vegetables or, you know, get something else if you can't afford dinner? No, they want you to buy their cereal. And they're like pigs in poop rolling around being like, we can just go on the news and tell people just buy cereal if you can't afford food for dinner. And nobody's revolting. Like, how is that? We're in America. I have to bring this stuff to your attention because inside I go, I want to revolt. This is unacceptable that we have these CEOs who have bought and paid for our politicians. Left, right, it don't matter. I am neither blue or red. I am for the people. I support no political party in this country. Especially when they allow these CEOs to go on TV and tell people, if you can't afford dinner, just buy cereal. I want you to play out what this looks like in 5 or 10 years if we don't put a stop to it now. So that's why I want to help people. I want to help people understand. I want to be there for people. I want to stand arm in arm for people, for those who are ready to wake up and take this country back. I always think, like, man, if they keep starving us out of stuff and they keep not paying us and we can't afford to do anything, do they not see the end goal for that? The end goal is we can't afford these things anymore. We're on the precipice right now, and they just keep pushing it. But what really gets me is they flaunt it in our faces. Just read these headlines. Pay attention after the earnings call. What they tell their investors, how they're going to make them more money to satiate Wall Street, because that's all it is. These companies always have to have more revenue, or they bring in a CEO from another corporation, give that the one leaving a golden parachute, and they try to figure out more money. And I just don't understand how nobody has the foresight to think, like, well, in 5 years' time, what does that look like? If we're not paying our workers anymore, how are they going to buy our products? I mean, even Henry Ford, not a good person, saw that. He was like, oh, if I pay my workers more for them to work less, give them a couple days off for a weekend, they could buy my cars and drive around on the weekend. It was just common sense. And now everyone wants to talk about taking a Con 101 class and not look at just the common sense of it. So that's why I do the class work. It all started a long time ago. This is like the birth of Not a Nation, birth of a YouTube channel. When I lost some of the most dear people to me in my life. And I have to live with that scar forever. But it made me realize that what is this life for? We're all going to take that moment. We're not going to be here anymore. And I don't know many of us that say, I wish I worked longer and harder. I wish I was grinding 24/7 more than 24/7. People aren't saying that. And I don't think our purpose is just to work. I think that was part of what America was supposed to be, is like you could work and not stress about owning a house or a car, or if you just wanted to get educated. I love that some people just want to pursue education. Some people just want to do that. Why do we stop them? Don't we want our people smarter? Why would we be against our people being healthier and smarter? I can't get this, and I'm going to do this live stream until we figure it out, or until we get enough people to go, yeah, that makes sense. Benefit us all. So I'm wrapping this up because I'm devastated. I had my first panic attack since my dad died. I've only had 2 in my life. My hand's shaking right now. I'm just not okay. But I gave you my word. 5 days a week, every week. So please, if you've joined the community, if you've joined this family, thank you so much for those of you who have subscribed. And if you haven't, I encourage you, whether we see eye to eye or not, it's about having the discussion. It's about me bringing things to light and your take on it. We all have different perspectives, and unless we start these discussions, they won't get addressed. So it's very important to have conversations. I thank you for watching. I thank you for subscribing. And if you're new, please hit subscribe and notifications. I go live 5 days a week. You won't know unless you hit that notification bell. If you're the praying side, please pray for me.